Trump's approach to the sensitive subject was made clear during his October interview on comedian Andrew Schultz's podcast, Flagrant. Schultz jokingly mentioned Barron, Trump's 18-year-old youngest son, who attends New York University. He is free in the city of New York. Do you really want to overturn Roe v. Wade right now? A moment later, Trump and Schultz both burst out laughing, followed by what must have been thousands of young male listeners. Trump went on to provide cliched responses about states' rights, but as is frequently the case, the substance was separated from the approach. Schultz had assisted Trump in transforming an unpopular stance into a frat guy joke, which should be thrown away with last night's trash. On his path to a second White House victory, Trump won that media cycle and, eventually, the majority of young men's votes. In contrast, Vice President Kamala Harris made appearances on popular comedy shows like The Late Show with Stephen Colbert, which cater to older, liberal audiences. Her failure to interact with young voters on online humor platforms was questioned by pundits. To equal the impact of Schultz and podcaster Joe Rogan, they also pushed liberals to cultivate a new generation of political comedians. These critiques of Harris's approach, however, ignore how liberal comedians have failed to adapt to changing political and media landscapes. The U.S. right wing has been successful in portraying itself as the new home for free speech and innovative humor, while Jon Stewart shouts and Jimmy Kimmel sobs. In our book, That's Not Funny, How the Right Makes Comedy Work for Them, we examine this evolution. The right has become a haven for comedians who say that there are more entertaining things to do than to dispute, rather than using jokes to make political points. When a formula becomes old. For the majority of the 21st century, liberal comedy and political satire have mostly followed Stewart's The Daily Show template. It goes like this: an intelligent, sardonic presenter describes a vital social issue using carefully considered evidence before making a joke about right-wing hypocrisy. Several comedy shows, including The Colbert Report, Full Frontal with Samantha Bee, and Patriot Act with Hassan Minhaj, have replicated the resulting combination of righteous laughter and rage. The gap created by a news medium that was becoming more and more profit-driven was filled by these satirical programs. They have, however, evolved to value political sermonizing over amusement. HBO's Last Week Tonight with John Oliver is perhaps Stewart's most successful successor and the clearest illustration of the condescending tone of liberal comedy. Oliver has a larger budget to go into greater detail on contentious subjects because the show airs on prestige cable. In fact, both academics and journalists have praised the John Oliver effect, which occurs when viewers rally around a cause, whether it is internet regulation or vaccines, shortly after the host dedicates an episode to it. Oliver can provide engaging long-form talks. His target audience, however, is liberals with college degrees who are inclined to favor progressive measures rather than young, indecisive voters who cannot afford HBO. He reminded viewers of subjects his program has discussed in depth twice in a recent election post-mortem episode, such as a professor reprimanding pupils for forgetting recent lessons. During a segment concerning Trump's deceptive economic rhetoric, Oliver begged that his program had previously explained inflation for 24 human minutes. Oliver's frustration is sometimes humorous, but it's obvious that he's more angry at, even contemptuous of, the American people for failing the election night final test. We believe that liberals need to reimagine political humor in order to win over young voters, particularly young males. Moving past the haranguing, which has long been its main delivery method, will be necessary to achieve this. But this will be difficult if the right strengthens the link between political power and its own comedians. The emerging connection between digital media and the humor industry is the reason behind Trump's success with comedy. For many years, it was believed that humor was exclusively the domain of liberals. Furthermore, comic acts that focused on right-wing politics did not provide much financial gain. However, in an attempt to alter this reality, a new generation of right-wing comedians has been using digital platforms and algorithmically driven audience targeting since 2016. Rogan and other libertarian podcasters have long explored a range of political stances that appeal to their main audience of young men. He frequently presents right-wing cultural and humorous voices, invites them to appear as guests, and advertises their programs and goods. He has contributed to the development of a de facto right-wing comedy network in the process. The combined strength of this network's comedians and shows is specifically aimed at desirable young customers and future voters, even if none of them has the same popularity or influence as, example, The Daily Show at its peak. The fact that 3 regulars on The Joe Rogan Experience, Schultz, comedian Theo Vaughn, and libertarian scientist Lex Fridman, hosted the most anticipated dates on Trump's October podcast tour is no accident. Trump also made a 3-hour appearance on Rogan's show.